All right, we're happy to welcome the public who are joining us in our Standards and Assessment Committee meeting today. And to begin, I would like to turn the time over to Vice Superintendent Patty Norman for some important recognition with our social studies standards preparation for the coming year. Patty.
Yes, this is a fun one to be able to see all of the progress that's been made on something that you as a board have been so heavily involved in. So we'll start out with the Utah State Board of Education's mission is to open doors of opportunity for all Utah children. This month, we highlight the work and the progress on implementing the new social studies standards, and we'd like to have Joanna Sorensen turn her camera on and wave. Joanna is the Pre-K 6 Social Studies Education Specialist, Title IV Part A Monitoring Specialist. And the Utah State Board of Education approved the new social studies standards in December 2022 for grades K-6, and full implementation of the standards is expected for the 2024-2025 school year. And in board backups, if you'd like, there's some documents in there. And you'll be able to see the Utah Social Studies standards, the implementation timeline. And Joanna's also going to give a little a preview too, so that you can see some of those as well. The Social Studies K-6 standards implementation timeline consists of 4 phases that span the approval of the new standards starting in December of 2022 through the full implementation during the 2024-25 school year. Each of the phases outlines actions to be done by 3 levels of educators in the state: classroom teachers, district and charter leaders, and USBE education specialists. Phase 1, which that all of you have been a part of, was the planning and development of district school charter plans, and that happened in the spring and summer. And new standards were posted on the USBE page and on UEN. There was a comparison document created and shared. There was an alignment with We the People, BYU Arts Partnerships, and other folks. There was a professional learning menu, sessions at the URSA, UCSS, districts, charters, schools, grade level teams, individual educators, all resources consistently shared at social studies leadership meetings, curriculum director meetings, etc. And if you are lucky enough to be friends with Joanna on Facebook, she posts the most amazing pictures of working with educators in the evenings, on the weekends. It doesn't matter when Joanna's out, and she is meeting with them and doing amazing things. Phase 2 is the pre-implementation year that started the district charter school plan in fall of 2023 and spring of 2024. There were educator background courses that were available via Canvas. There was bite-sized professional learning. There was office hours that were offered monthly. Elementary school social studies grade level collaborative cohorts offered monthly. Professional learning, individual teachers, grade level teams, PLCs, school and charter faculties, and also district level opportunities. In addition to that, there was alignment with stakeholders, and the alignments were developed, they were updated. There were some that are still in progress with Why I Love America and through NHMU. Phase 3 is the transition to full implementation that will occur during summer of 2024, and a continuation of all of the above into the Summer Integration Institute, which will be held at Price during the summer of 2024. Joanna, I'm going to turn the time over to you to share your screen and give a little bit more information on these items.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Good morning.
All right, did that work? Can you see my screen okay? Yes, I have people on one screen and my slides on another screen, and okay. Coming in, I don't know if I need to I don't need to reintroduce myself. Coming into this position 2.5 years ago, it was right in the middle of the standards revision process, and I learned so much from that. And no offense to any of you I worked with during that time for the standards revision, now is like the best part of my job, because I get to be out in the field with teachers and talking about what's going on in their classrooms, and it's the best. So I'm so excited to be here today and share with you what is happening in the field as far as implementation of these standards. So I'm just going to review a little bit of what Patty said and then give you a little more detail. So I do mostly pictures, not words. So bear with me, I'll explain. So as Patty said, the new standards have been uploaded on the website and also the timeline, the implementation timeline document. So you can see all of those phases and what is expected. And I like to say layers instead of levels of stakeholders or educators. So we have the layer of classroom teachers that are boots on the ground, and then the layer of district and charter administration, and then the layer of USBE. So the standards are online, the implementation plan is online, and timeline. The scale represents the comparison document. I've had so many teachers talk about that comparison document really helping them understand why the changes were made that were done in this new revision of the standards, instead of saying, oh, that was my favorite, why did you take that out? It's right in that comparison document so they can understand that it maybe had to do with horizontal alignment or vertical alignment or age or grade level, things like that. The alignment Patty talked about, we have some amazing organizations here in the state. Like We the People is nationwide, but we have a strong state chapter of We the People. The BYU Arts Partnership that develops integrated lesson plans. So many organizations, Utah Valley University and their Center for Constitutional Studies. So they've developed resources for teachers, but all of those have been aligned to the previous standards. And so we've worked with those organizations to help them update their resources, see where things fit with the new standards, where there might be holes, what things don't really work for our teachers anymore. This cafe, I flipped the script a little bit on professional learning for people in the field. You know, traditionally we've said, oh, okay, I'm going to come to your area or your region on this day and I'll be there at this time. And hopefully you can get a sub and come join me. But since the COVID times, it's been harder and harder for teachers to be able to find subs and leave the classroom. So I created this professional learning menu and sent it out to as many people as I can get it to, with a menu, if you will, of professional learning options, topics, specific grade levels, just lots of choice, and just said, if any of this is useful to you, you figure out when I can come to you. I will work it with my schedule and I'll come to you at your convenience, rather than them trying to be able to leave their classrooms to come on my terms. Let's see what else. Oh, the picture there. So I've offered with that professional learning menu, I'll meet with individual teachers, with grade level teams or PLCs, with school faculties, district wide, you know, whatever layer they need. And that is me and Stasha Wheeler, who is the Granite School District social studies specialist. We went and worked with the faculty of Fox Hills Elementary, bless their hearts, on December 22nd, the last day before their winter break. So we had to, you know, make it a little bit fun with our dress ups and keep them entertained. Stasha was a good sport. She's secondary teacher, so she got introduced to dress ups of elementary teachers. In phase 2, as Patty mentioned, we have educator background courses in Canvas. They aren't all done and up yet, but elementary teachers are generalists. We teach a little bit of everything. And so a lot of times with especially social studies and science, we sometimes don't feel like we have the background knowledge to really feel confident in teaching some of our standards. And so these are courses where teachers can learn the background knowledge necessary to effectively teach their new grade level standards. It isn't how to teach the standards. It's just, here, let's learn the information ourselves, and then we can teach it to our students. Also, the cake represents bite-sized professional development and office hours that I'm doing monthly, where I'll plan about a 30-minute little micro professional learning session on something that I'm hearing from teachers that they need in regard to the new standards. And then the last few minutes are just Q&A. What questions do you have? How can I support and help you? Along with that, we have some teacher leaders from around the state that are leading elementary, like grade level collaborative cohorts where any teacher in their grade level can Zoom in once a month, and they'll also get a mini lesson about the new standards that is more specific to their grade level rather than the general one that I am running monthly. We have the eMedia Hub on UEN. That's where it says social studies that have resources to support teachers in their implementation. I did the math as far as the professional learning menu and being in person with teachers and spanning from going to Westminster and speaking with their pre-service teachers in their social studies methods class through individual teachers in their classrooms, like I mentioned, PLCs, grade level teams. By the end of March, and I know it's a small number compared to the total number of teachers, but it's better than zero. By the end of March, I will have worked with in person around 750 teachers or educators in the state on this implementation. So that's super exciting to me. YL of America, we've been working on aligning their Constitution booklet with the new standards, and the Natural History Museum of Utah is working to phase the new standards in to align with the resources that they support. I want to read a couple comments from teachers that have attended some of the sessions. One of my biggest professional goals in this job is to bring social studies back to Utah's elementary classrooms. And so I have these evaluations that I have teachers do when I go out and work with them. And they all say, before I attended this session, I thought this. Now, after attending this session, I think this. And I just want to read a couple to you, and then I'll share these in the slideshow. But this picture is from when I was recording my end of year goodbye to my COVID students, but it fits with this. So one teacher said, before I attended this session, I thought, I can't teach social studies because I teach first grade. Now that I've attended this session, I can teach it and in an age appropriate way. One teacher said, before I attended this session, I thought I was just going to be staring at standards and deciding what they meant. It was so much more applicable than that. Now that I've attended this session, I think social studies is exciting, and there are so many ways I can implement it in first grade. Another teacher said, before I attended this session, I thought I was doing all I could. Now that I've attended this session, I feel validated in the time I give to social studies. Before I attended this session, I wasn't sure about the 4 areas in social studies and what civics really entailed. Now that I've attended this session, I'm so excited to start implementing these ideas and using primary sources. I know where to find them now. And then we have LEAs doing things at their layer. And you will probably all remember that there was a grant awarded to Jordan School District by the state board to develop an optional social studies curriculum that aligns directly or supports directly our K-6 standards. They are working so hard on that. They have until just less than a year from now to have it finished, but they're teachers mostly. They're developing the curriculum and they know how badly it's needed. So they're really working to get that completed prior to school year starting next year. So teachers will have it right off the bat. Salt Lake City School District said, we spent 1 week during summer 2023 unpacking the new K-6 social studies standards. We created maps called storyboards, complete with I can statements for each standard. This year, we are meeting monthly with a group of K-6 teachers to align available resources per standard, develop new resources, and support teachers with the new standards. We will begin to work on assessments summer 2024 and be ready for a full rollout in August 2024. It goes on and on. People are working really hard to bring these standards into their classroom. And again, I'll share some of those comments with you. Another really exciting thing that we are doing is a summer institute in Price in June, where we're taking 20 teachers and we're working on content integration with social studies standards, SEED standards, and then bringing in other content areas that usually get all the attention, like math and language arts. So we're going to help teachers recognize how they can authentically integrate these new standards with other content area standards at their grade level. But we're going to implement place-based learning, try to help them see how their local community offers relevant real life experiences. So hopefully what they learn at this institute in Price, they can take back with them and transfer those ideas to their own schools community. I think, except for the slides with all the words on them that I'll just share with you, that is the end of my slideshow. So let me stop sharing. Okay. Patty, I think that's it, unless there are questions.
Chair Booth, can I make a comment? Okay, I think you said yes. I didn't hear you say that. So I just want to say,
Sorry, I was muted. I apologize.
yeah, that's okay.
Please go right ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to publicly say how much I appreciate Joanne's hard work I've run into in different settings, and she's very thoughtful and thorough, very professional in all that she does, and just grateful for her enthusiasm for social studies and civics and other things. So I just wanted to publicly thank her for all of her hard work that she does for our schools. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'm really happy that we're at this stage. Isn't it nice in a set of standards to be at this stage where the excitement is beginning to pop, and the actual teachers who are going to be with our students that the standards were created for are starting to feel more and more prepared, and it's going to be a great rollout. We're very excited and appreciative of all the hard work that has happened since many, many moons ago, and all the water that is run under the bridge up to this point, and you can feel the excitement in the air. It's very, very gratifying to see the good hard work of everyone coming together. Board Member Reel.
Thanks, Chair Booth. I want to add on to what Member Earl was saying. 700 teachers by March. That is nuts to do that in person. So mega applause for that. Also love that you're integrating social studies more so into the lower grades, because obviously as someone who teaches American government and politics, I cannot appreciate more folks learning civics and social studies and American government. If it was up to me, it'd be integrated a lot more all the way through K through 12. So thank you so much for your hard work and your entire team, and we so appreciate you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Well, Joanna, we appreciate that report, and it's kicked off our meeting in a very positive and optimistic way, which we needed after the long hours of yesterday. So thank you for making that happen today. And I think we're ready now to go on with our agenda. And just one second here, and I'm going to find what's next.
Well, and it is public comment, but I do not have any requests for public comment, Chair Booth. And so I just wanted to let you know that. And also in the chat, Joanna has placed a couple links to a couple of documents that kind of went along with her presentation. And I will also add those to the meeting summary for all the board members to have those.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Andrea. We appreciate that.
And
All
Chair
right.
Moss, our next agenda item is action item, and it's on R2777-4, the criteria for sponsoring daycare facilities.
Now, is that 7-4 or 724? I just want to make sure.
R27-724. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, great. And who is going to be leading this discussion?
We have Kathleen Britton.
Excellent.
Hey, this is just a rule, a board rule that just needs to be renewed. There has been no changes to it from prior copy.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. Do we have any questions or comments from board members? If not.
Yes, I would. This is
Yes,
Board Member
Natalie.
Klein. Yeah, I was just How long has this rule been in effect? Do you know?
I cannot give you a clear date on that. We've been doing that program for at least 40 years.
40 years. And so this is the recruiting of daycare facilities and child care, adult care facilities to participate in the food program. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we are, as an education system, are providing food for childcare, daycare, and adult care centers.
Correct. It falls under the
Chair-
child nutrition programs that we oversee.
And Chair, if I may, Kathleen, can you give some information about that? So it's not necessarily that we're recruiting agencies or recruiting facilities, but Kathleen, I don't know if you or Elise kind of wants to talk about what that program looks like to help provide that information and what that money goes for.
I'm sure, I'm going to defer that to Nicole Vance, who is the coordinator over the child care section. So Nicole, would you?
Yeah, so this is the Child and Adult Care Food Program, and it's one of the child nutrition programs that is administered through our section of USBE, and we facilitate the centers that meet specific program requirements stated by the federal government to receive reimbursement for food that is served according to menu requirements, documentation, and things like that. Does that answer the question?
My question or Patty's? Well, I'm just looking at the title, Criteria for Sponsors Recruiting Daycare Facilities in the Child and Adult Care Food Program. So criteria for sponsors recruiting. It says recruiting daycare facilities. So are we actively going out and finding these facilities and inviting them to participate in this program?
We're connecting with agencies that they are also required to, like Office of Child Care licensing, and they provide, when a new center is coming under them, they provide them with information about the food program. And then if they choose to, they can contact us to learn about the requirements to get on the program, and we take them through that process.
Okay, so that's for entities. And our next action item after this is for individual families or children for the EBT. It's all under the same umbrella. You're over both of those. Is that correct?
SEBT is not under my jury. It's under child nutrition programs, but it's separate from the child and adult care food program.
Okay, but they both fall under the child nutrition program.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I this is where I understand that this is in law and a requirement. We have to have something around it because it's been assigned to us to oversee this. But philosophically, I don't believe this is the role of the education system. So it just feels like we need to be focused on educating students and not all these other programs. But
So
that's
Chair-
beside the point because it's something that's been assigned to us to oversee. Thank
Chair
you.
Booth, can I ask a question? I just want to
Of course.
make sure. Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm understanding the rule. The rule is creating some kind of criteria around those who are choosing to recruit, right? When I say recruiting, going out and actually going into these centers. So it kind of creates a criteria. Am I understanding that correctly? And then criteria in such a way that they know kind of the parameters about access and that kind of thing as far as being able to engage with these facilities. And correct me if I'm wrong. I that's kind of what I was understanding.
Yes, that's in the text of the bill, is outlining what that criteria is. And some of the responsibilities that lie with us as the state agency as far as making sure that they meet criteria. We do administrative reviews on a regular basis according to federal regulation. And if criteria is not met at that time, there are instructions for us about suspension or termination if the program elements are not being met as the sponsors or the sites are administering their programs.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So we're like an oversight entity for this program to make sure it gets facilitated correctly.
Correct.
be an
We go
accurate
out
statement?
to.
Yeah.
We go to the sponsor and make sure they're running the program correctly.
Okay, thank
Any further comments or questions from any board members? If not, I would welcome a motion. Thank you, Vice Chair Earl.
I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Now give me the motion and I would be happy to move it forward because I think there is a requirement for us to have this in place.
Great.
So
We'll get that screen.
oh, you got it pulled up. Okay, so the motion is, after I make it a little bigger here, let's see, that the committee continue R277724 on the first reading and forward to the board for continuation on second and final reading.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to that motion at all?
Nope. No, I just, and I was trying to make sure I understood because we create the criteria to make sure the money is not misused as well as the facilities are what they need to be, right? What they're saying is actually what's happening. So I think this is that checklist or that double check to make sure that the programming is what it needs to be in order to qualify and then continue to maintain the funding and such. So I think this is, if the funding is going to be there, we need this criteria in place. So.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from other board members? Seeing none, the motion before the committee is that the committee continue that the board, let's see. The recommendation of the committee is that we continue R277724 on first reading and forward to the board for continuation on second and final reading. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I will vote to move it forward to the board, although I don't agree with it philosophically. And is it possible to find out what federal program requires this? Before we vote on it in full board.
Yeah, that would be great if we could get that information into backup for the next full board, for whatever board meeting this is brought forward to.
Thank you.
Maybe one of the legislative meetings, I'm not sure, or it may be next month's meeting. I'm not sure about that. That would be great. So we have a unanimous support of moving it forward to the full board. Now we're ready for agenda item 3.4. Who would like to speak to that?
This is Kathleen. I will speak to that. This is the summer EBT program. This is a brand new program through USDA. It was part of the Consolidation Appropriation Act that was just passed. It's a permanent summer electronic benefit transfer for children for the purpose of ensuring continued access to food when school is not in session. We will be partnering with the Department of Workforce Services, and they will be the lead on this. What we're asking is the board address 2 action items. The one is the data sharing agreement and the MOU.
So we have a memo of understanding, and what was the first thing that we have responsibility for?
The data sharing agreement and the MOU.
All right. So what questions do we have from our board members?
This is board member. Go ahead, Jenny.
Okay, go ahead. We've had this item before, and I'll just share my general concern, and then I'm going to I'm going to make a motion related not to the motion that we have in front of us, but a separate one. but I just have concern that, I understand that when a parent signs up for, the breakfast, lunch, whatever, help me, school meals, right? Whatever that entails, that there is something on that form that says that information can be shared. And it's a very broad statement, right? I think in this case, the fact that people have to come to us to get the information and to ask for permission, I have a concern, even though it says that on there, that people may not know that they're being signed up for a program and that they have the ability. When I say signed up, they're given their information's being given, and then they're being solicited for a program. And if parents want to do that, that's fine. They can make that choice. I just have concerns with this. We've talked about this when we had this for, I don't know, maybe it was 2 years ago during the summer program where we provided information. I would make a motion around, and I think Workforce Services or whoever's document this is, I think this is going to continue to happen. And so when parents sign up in the fall, I really would like that to be spelled out, that a checkbox, yes, you can send my information to right, whatever that date, I don't know what the legal stuff needs to be, Workforce Services to sign me up for this program or to contact me for this program. I just have a problem with this broad, everybody that is in signed up for free and reduced lunch, now their information is going to be sent. So I don't know if I need to make a formal request. That's probably what needs to happen. Patty, do you know? Or maybe even Workforce Services can talk about that, or something that indicates we will be sharing your personal information with this program, something along that lines, whatever that needs to be.
Chair Chair Booth, may I?
Please go right ahead.
Yes, we have Katie that can come over and ask answer some of those data privacy questions. And maybe what we can do is find out for sure on the form that is given, who is the maker of the form. For example, is it a federal form that has to be filled out exactly? What leniency do we have within the form? What we can do is if we can track those questions again. If we can, and the questions, if you restate those questions, we'll get them written down, and then we'll send them out to this full committee and the full board prior to the next meeting.
So 2 things. One, can they put some kind of a box on there that indicates specifically, yes, I would be interested in my information being shared for this program, right? Not in a broad sense, so that they know exactly what they're possibly indicating. And then something about your information, could be, in this case, it would be being shared with specifically who and for what purposes. I just want more, when a parent signs that, I don't think they have any idea that this could be shared, whatever. And I know legally, because of that signature, that it makes it okay. I just think parents, the proactive approach and the fact we are sharing their personal data with another entity and they have to come to us to get it speaks to the fact that, I don't know. I just have concerns with that, a broader concern. So hopefully, did that clarify, Patty?
Yeah, we can follow up on those in an email. We'll send it to the committee the full board. And just as a reminder, this agenda item is also placed on the Thursday meeting that is next week due to the time sensitive nature of it. So it will be on that legislative meeting. So we'll make sure that information gets out before.
I do have a question. I have the same concerns, in addition to the fact that DSW is the lead on this and we are the partnering agent, so that they have, obviously we're going to come up with a memorandum of understanding so that we agreed to the terms, but it says that this summer EBT program became law in December 29th of 2023. Do we have that law? Where is that? Is that a federal law? And what is it called? Can somebody grab a link and share that with us? Okay, is that something you can drop in the chat, a link to that? Yeah, I would like to look through through the law and see the details
Chair Booth,
before I vote on this.
Okay,
may I speak, Chair Booth?
please go ahead.
The IFR is in the board docs, that board document. It's a civic clerk backup for you to pull also in a in a PDF. In your reference to the lunch applications, those are federal lunch applications. We can try to rewrite those and amend them and get approval to send them out to the school districts for next school year. But I want to make it clear, this is for this summer that we need this data information for.
Okay.
So is it the last document? Let's see. On our.
Do you see it on the screen?
I do see, I'm just trying to find it in my board backup.
So it's the IFR summer EBT.
The IFR, okay,
That one.
okay, thank you.
Great.
So this is going to
Jennifer,
be before
would
the full board next Thursday? Is that what you're saying if we
That's
pass?
correct.
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
Wow, 173 pages. Oof.
So
A lot of
can I? Oh.
details that we could get caught in, not. I just, as a general rule, I don't like these federal programs, especially when we're not in control of it and we have to, if we take the money and then we're on the hook. And so I am not okay with this.
Thank you.
Chair Booth, can I clarify?
Please do.
The money is being drawn down by Department of Workforce Services, and then they are funneling it through to the children. We are not receiving any funds at USBE except for our administrative costs.
So just to clarify, Kathleen, what we're doing is just administering the program as they come to us to get signed up for the program. Is that correct? But then once they're signed up, all of the implementation is done by Workforce Services?
Correct. So we are just providing the data to them for these students that are already on the National School Lunch Program. And then this would be a EBT card, like an electronic benefit card, that these parents would receive for the summer. It's $120 for those the children that qualify for free and reduced lunch.
Okay, thanks for that.
Okay, can I just read for the record what data USBE will be sharing? So the list says parent guardian first and last name, parent guardian phone number, parent guardian email address, student first, middle, and last name, student date of birth, address of household on record with the LEA or mailing address if different than the address on the other, students free and reduced eligibility status, students enrollment in community eligibility provision school or provision 2 school, students school enrollment data, students school enrollment end date, free reduced eligibility date, or the date student became eligible for free and reduced meals, statewide student identifier, so their SSID number, the student's local district ID number, the student's school name and school code, student's LEA name and LEA code, direct certification source program name, so SNAP, TANF, Medicaid free, Medicaid reduced, foster, FDPIR, homeless, runaway, student emancipated minor status. Let's see, it continues.
Wow, it's certainly clear that the federal government has not taken a look at this on how to reduce the information gathering that needs to be done for this program.
Right. Well, let me just finish. I just got the rest of it up. LEA entry date, LEA exit date, past enrollment information, school years, LEA codes, LEA names, school codes, school names, grade levels, LEA entry dates and exit dates. So this is just not okay. Our families don't know that this is what's happening, and it's not fair. it's totally not transparent. And so this is the federal government using us to get access to our families and students' information that is not there. They are not entitled to student data. They're just not. And we treat it as if it's just, you know, business as usual, and it's not okay, and it needs to stop.
Appreciate that. Jennifer, did you have a comment?
Yes, so I am from the Department of Workforce Services, so I just wanted to explain how this data share agreement would work with us to hopefully help some of the questions that have been voiced. So the first thing, in addition to what's already been provided with USDA and Food and Nutrition Services statutes, we're looking at the CFRs 292. So that's the new statute for the SEBT program. And that federal statute allows child nutrition programs to coordinate with us. The reason why we have to do it this way is you guys do not have the capacity to issue $120 to these families for those summer benefits when there they've been approved for the free and reduced program. So you're partnering with the SNAP agency, which is DWS, who has the capacity to issue cards, electronic cards that restrict funding to only food purchases so that we can get that information out to the families to help them in the summer. Like Kathleen said, it's $120. Can I finish my stuff and then I can get back to your question? Thank you. In addition to that, because of this program, the way it's been set up, they are automatically qualified for the summer benefit by being qualified for the free and reduced lunch program. That is part of the statute. That's part of the elements. We understand your concern about the data share information. The direct certification list that you talked about is actually files that you receive from DWS annually or monthly, daily. I believe that file goes out daily. So that's already our data that we're providing to help with some of this. So the joint process is we're already working with some of this data share agreement already. It's just receiving information on the individuals who are not part of the direct certification lists.
May I comment now?
Yeah.
I would just like to say that it's a crazy amount of data being exchanged for hot dogs and a juice box, and making families and students more dependent on government and conditioning them to look to government to fulfill their needs. This is just another welfare program, and it's not the role of the schools. It's not the proper role of schools or government to incentivize dependency.
Thank you.
Chair Booth.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion, but first a note is that, you know, a lot of this data sharing and these requirements come from those not in my political party who have asked for this because they feel as though they don't trust people getting government buyouts. So I just want to mention that I support helping folks get food and helping folks who may be in need that have these barriers that are prohibiting them to being successful and getting to a better place in life. So for me, I'd like to move this on to the Thursday committee, if that's okay, if that's the motion that we have there, and not get into some federal government conversations about the haves and haves nots, because I don't think it's appropriate here.
All right. So you want to move it to the full board?
Yeah, right. The Thursday committee, was that right, Patty? That's our next step. I was reading the memo. I was reading the recommended action and it didn't say that in it. But the recommended action is the committee approve the child nutrition program can participate in the partnership, but there was nothing in there about saying move to the full board to approve and then the rest that USBE. Would that be more appropriate?
Yeah, do we have Vice Chair Earl on here? I just don't want to make is Vice Chair Earl still on?
She might have had to go. She had something with the legislature.
So during our planning meeting, there was a discussion about whether this item should go to the full board. And just because of the timing was the full regs weren't out until the end of December. Traditionally, we don't bring any grant items or opportunities to the full board until we have all of the items in place, because the board should not be voting on something that is half baked, I guess, and then have something come back that you feel you weren't informed about. So due to the timing of it coming in December 31st, getting all of the things in place in January, then it came as soon as possible in February. Then the timeline is we needed it by March. So in talking with board leadership, it was stated that we absolutely need to follow things going to committee first, but due to the sensitive nature of the timeline, it would go to committee first, and then making sure they met the timeline of March, the committee for February, and then to a Thursday, even though traditionally that's set aside for just legislative items.
So I think that we have registered the concerns, and we have, I think we've been able to gather as a committee adequate information so that we can move it forward to the full board, where a more fully fleshed discussion will undoubtedly take place, particularly regarding the data sharing component of this this rule.
And I just have one more question.
Of course, go ahead.
So the free and reduced lunch application, is that what automatically entitles kids to enrollment in the summer EBT food program?
Correct. Their approval for free and reduced lunch makes them eligible for this program because it's an extension of that.
And what is the criteria for meeting the free and reduced lunch qualifications?
Chair Booth, I can speak to that. It's based on the income poverty level of 180% or lower.
Okay, and how are in the schools, how does that play out in practice? How are they getting that information from the students? Yeah, is there just a form that goes out?
The parent will fill out the National School Lunch application, and then that is submitted to the school, and then it's verified and processed at the school level.
And it's my understanding that that data on how many students are on that program also determines some of their Title I designation as well, right?
Correct. A lot of the free and reduced data is shared to the education department. So the data has already been being shared with other agencies.
So do
at the federal level.
Do they fill out this form regardless of whether they are trying to get on free and reduced lunch? Is this something that everybody fills out, and if they check that box, they're automatically signed up for this?
No,
and
this
their
is a
information is shared even if they don't necessarily want it?
No, this is a voluntary. The parent needs to fill it out if they feel they need these benefits. If
So
they
don't
don't,
have everybody fill it out.
no.
Because I know that there are schools, from what I've heard from constituents, who actively push parents to all fill it out. And I think that that's inappropriate, and maybe that can be, I don't know, somehow.
Sure, but that's
addressed.
also super anecdotal. I mean, my district has the most Title I schools, the most low income, most diverse, and this is really important to a lot of my students. So whatever we need to do to move it forward is what I think we should do at this point. We can have that full discussion on Thursday.
Sounds good. All right, so we have the motion. Did you already make the motion, Board Member Reel?
Yes, as long as Chair Booth, you think that that was the correct action there on that motion, and Patty, that will work with their timelines and the restrictions that they have based on. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so the motion before us is that we approve that the child nutrition program can participate in partnership with the Department of Workforce Services. I don't know that we approve. We agree that they can work together on the new summer EBT program that became law December 29th, including a data sharing agreement and a maintenance of understanding with DWS so that the EBT program is ready for implementation in the summer of 2024 and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading during their next meeting on this Thursday. So I'm a little bit confused. I think that the motion is a little bit expanded. I mean, we have considered all of the information and are agreeing to move it forward to the full board for their approval and consideration and approval is more like it. Does that sound more like what we're doing, board members?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to change what you said.
No, Chair Booth, I think you're right. I think that,
I mean, I don't think that we're approving
yes, I
anything
agree.
at this point.
Yeah.
We've considered all the information that's been provided for us. And
It's ready to go to the full board.
yeah,
May I make a comment?
please go right ahead.
Just going back to what was said by Member Real, I just have to say, because it is anecdotal doesn't mean it's not true. Just for the record, that's what's happening, and families are being pressured to fill these out so that they can then claim Title I status, which then makes them which qualifies them for more federal funds and programs. And so that practice must stop. And I don't know, that's not something we can address in this, but it is something that needs to be addressed, that the form is purely voluntary and it can be offered to the parents, but they cannot be pestered and pressured to fill it out.
Thank you. Appreciate that comment, and that's noted in our minutes. Jennifer Reynolds.
Yeah, I would just like to make note that the information that we receive is really only those individuals that have applied and been approved. So outside of the other concerns that you may have with districts, we are only looking at those that have met that poverty limit and they are eligible for the program. And that we do individuals that participate in SNAP, TANF, and Medicaid programs that we administer here at DWS, those applicants are aware that this information is shared and that their children can qualify for free and reduced meals. So there is that understanding that they know by applying with us for these federal programs that they qualify then in turn for the additional help at the school. So it is an open program information where they know that that happens as well. So I wanted to make it clear that we educate our customers that they are qualified for these benefits at school as well. So I think that a lot of individuals already understand that there's that joint sharing because we do administer these programs through Food and Nutrition Services as partners, and we have for years.
Thank you. Thanks very much. All right, so we have the recommendation or the motion on the table to move this now forward to the full board for their consideration and approval this coming Thursday's meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, so we have 2 ayes, I believe, because board member Earl is not yet back with us, and 1 no from board member Klein. All right, we're ready to move on to the next item, which I believe, not finding things very well on my computer today, an update
Yes.
on school safety, which I'm excited to be able to hear again. It was our privilege in our planning meeting to welcome Chantel to the meeting, and she gave an excellent presentation, and I'm looking forward to her sharing that now with our other board members and with staff members that are here. So,
Chair,
yes.
with it, when we have a vote where we don't, I guess we have a quorum, so 2 is enough to send it on to full board.
You know, is that correct, Deputy Superintendent Norman?
That is my understanding, but I will do a double, Michelle Buse is on right now. So
Oh yeah, AG Booth's Buse right
So
now.
it would be a majority of those that are in attendance, so it would be enough for you to send it on.
Okay. All right.
So that's different than when we're voting as a full board where you have to have
It
a
is.
majority of the full body committees.
It is. Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that clarification. All right. Is there someone that wanted to speak before Chantel, or do we want her to take it away? Chantel,
happy-
it's like you're it.
Great. Thank you so much. Chantel Coda, Safe and Healthy Schools Coordinator for Utah State Board of Education. Thank you so much, Board Member Booth, for that very kind introduction. If I may, I will go ahead and take over screen sharing and get my presentation up if you agree with that.
That would be great.
Perfect.
I see Rhett here with you. Who else do you have with you from your team?
I have Rhett, who is my co-pilot and really the co-star of the show, let's be honest. So he'll be jumping in as well.
Terrific. That's great. We're happy to have both of you with us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for this time. I'm really excited and honored to be able to share some school safety updates with all of you. I appreciate all of your support in moving forward school safety. I've had conversations with several of you on the board, as well as with LEAs and other community stakeholders. And I think for anything that we disagree on, one thing that we can all agree on is that we want our students to feel safe and to be safe in our schools. So thank you for this time and opportunity. Today I have 3 learning outcomes for the presentation. I'd like to talk a little bit about our School Safety Center and just give you an overview of who we are, what we do, and provide some highlights of the work that we've been engaging in and work that we're moving into based on some of the legislation that has come out. I'd like to share with you some funding updates, including updates on the School Safety Specialist Grant, the Firearm Detection Software Grant, and the School Safety and Support Grant Program. And then I'd like to go over some data and give you an overview of some of our data sources, and then just a review of data gaps. And this comes from questions I've had from board members as well as others on what type of data are we using to make decisions and how are we moving forward with the information that we are receiving. So I want to start by talking about the School Safety Center. As I mentioned, my role is a coordinator over Safe and Healthy Schools, and the School Safety Center is a program that is housed within Safe and Healthy Schools. So just a little history and background of the School Safety Center. In spring of 2019, the Utah legislature passed House Bill Student and School Safety Assessment. This House Bill 120 then formed the Utah State Board of Education School Safety Center. Who we are is a group of professionals from the Utah State Board of Education, the Department of Police Force Services, Office of Substance Abuse and Mental Health, and Safe UT. And what we do is we work together to strengthen school safety efforts by combining our skill set with creating technical resources, really striving to understand the needs of the LEAs, and then providing any type of supports, materials, and trainings for the schools. I'd like to talk a little bit about the mission of the School Safety Center and the vision. As you know, with our USB strategic plan, we take our mission and vision very seriously. And so as the coordinator for Safe and Healthy Schools, wanted to make sure that the School Safety Center had a mission and vision that's aligned with our strategic plan and also speaks to the work that we're doing. So the mission of the School Safety Center, the mission of the Utah State Board of Education School Safety Center is to work collaboratively to provide technical assistance, training, and resources that support local education agencies' commitment to ensuring school safety and improving the climate of school communities. The vision that we have for that is that the Utah State Board of Education School Safety Center, each student learns in a safe and healthy school environment. I'd like to share with you just a couple of the highlights, including starting off with some of the professional learning. This past year, several of our staff had the opportunity to visit Marjory Stoneman Douglas as a site visit. The opportunity came through some of the legislators and folks in Florida who really had the goal and mission to help spread any of the learning and resources that they're working on with other states. So we joined Representative Wilcox and Representative Burton. Dr. Norman came along with Rhett Larson, and we had Scott Eyre, one of our liaisons from the Office of Substance Use and Mental Health. And we were able to tour that facility as well as meet with several of the parents who unfortunately lost loved ones and children in that tragedy. We were also able to meet with policymakers and constituents who really shared their stories and their resources and provided a really holistic view of what went wrong, what we can learn in the state of Utah so that we can prevent tragedies such as that again. I think the biggest takeaway for me was just having that opportunity to meet with those who are so willing and so graciously shared, again, their resources and their stories. Walking through that school for me, as a former principal and teacher and school counselor and all the different things, is something that will live in my heart forever. It's something I will take with me when I leave this earth because of just the gravity and the sheer loss. And it just empowered me to come back and bring their resources and messages to share with all of you, and that we do not want to have that tragedy here in Utah. And we have excellent resources to be able to move forward with that. More professional learning includes the school safety onboarding and technical assistance training. So as you know, every school is required to have a school safety specialist in their school. And we've had really good success with onboarding programs, creating videos, technical resources. As you know, Rhett Larson is on, and he's been really an integral force in moving that forward and training our folks. We've had a lot of dedicated people attending these trainings. And, originally we had planned these trainings just for the school safety specialists, but we've had such an outpouring of support from superintendents and student service directors that want to know, what is this training? How can we help? How can we support? What can we do to keep students safe, even though I'm not the school safety specialist? So we have since opened it up to several folks that want to just join, just to learn the training and to better understand what school safety means in their schools. So, and we have all of these. I know that our website is still under migration, but for those parts that are working, you can access all of those trainings there, and I'm happy to share those out with you if that's helpful or useful. And then I just wanted to do a quick recap of the school safety conference that we held this past year as well. It's the first that we decided to sponsor here through USBE. We offered several sessions that here you can see on the screen. It was a 2-day conference. We offered sessions including situational awareness and decision-making under stress, a Parkland shooting review and lessons learned, the Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines, also referred to as CSTAG, the emergency management from planning to reunification, which really aligns with that emergency response protocol and planning that we have here in the state of Utah, and then school shooting and active threat review. So this was an opportunity for folks to just talk through different active threats and school shootings, and again, lessons learned as well as practical applications. I thought you might be interested in the attendance. So you can see here the number of attendees from school districts, charter schools, RESA. We also had law enforcement folks that joined us as participants, which was really great because they were able to ask questions that maybe some of our school folks didn't know to ask. And then they were hearing the questions that our school personnel were asking. And it really did provide for a really collaborative response to what we're doing to keep schools safe. I actually sent out a survey at the end of the 2-day conference and received really high level feedback on the opportunity to, first of all, attend these sessions, to have something that's really Utah based and focuses on the needs of Utah schools, and then to have these other organizations be involved. One piece of feedback that we will be taking into our next school safety conference that we are currently planning is schools really want some time to have some breakout sessions where they're meeting with other schools and colleagues and peers across the states to find out, what are you doing? What is working? What is not working? And we are taking that and running with it. So we will certainly embed that into our next conference to make sure that we honor that feedback and give them the opportunity for that as well. I'm sorry, let me go back. A couple of other school safety highlights so that you're aware of what we're doing. Communication is a core value to us at the School Safety Center and for Safe and Healthy Schools. So we provide a monthly newsletter to superintendents that just really is a high-level overview of all of the school safety things that we're engaging in. This is another one that's kind of snowballed. We've got a little bit of a newsletter envy, if you will. So I've had others reach out and say, hey, why am I not on this newsletter list? Which I kind of laugh because, our emails get so inundated inundated with things sometimes that it's funny that people are asking, but certainly we are willing to share that out with anybody because it's public information that we want people to know about school safety. So we've started sending that to student service directors and a couple of other folks as well. Myself, as well as Tanya Albernaz, who is the coordinator for prevention, we participate in monthly student service director meetings. And this is a really good opportunity for us to hear what's happening in the field, bring this information back to you as board members, as well as help them to understand, positions of the board, as well as local laws and policies and things that we're moving forward with. As invitation-based, I participate in the Utah School Superintendent Association meetings at the will of Dr. Patty Norman, if there are any school safety updates, so that the superintendents, again, have that opportunity to ask questions and kind of dive deeply into any topics that are pertinent and relevant to them. We had participation. Rhett and Dr. Norman were members of the School Security Task Force. I filled in quite frequently and was there as a guest speaker several times as well to help inform. That was the task force, just as a reminder, that was facilitated by Representative Wilcox to bring together, again, different agencies to better understand safety needs across the state. And then also I'm a participant in, and I facilitate the Utah School Safety Collaborative. And that is a collaborative that meets quarterly. Vice Chair Earl is a regular participant in that, and really appreciate her for joining that. And that again is something that came before my time, but was an initiative from, I believe, the Education Interim Committee to USBE that asked just that we bring together different agencies, so law enforcement, fire, different folks that have a stake in the game for safety, to make sure that we are talking and that we are sharing common resources and concerns, and really coming together around those areas. So with that takes me to our continued areas of focus. So one thing that we know is that schools do have emergency response plans. We know this because they have to indicate that in the superintendent's report annually. What we don't know is, what do those emergency response plans consist of? Do they have the standard response protocols? Or is there a reunification that parents have been involved in? Parents and community members had a say. Do they understand, what happens in an emergency? Where will my child be? Will my child be safe? Those are things that we're exploring to see how we can better support and provide technical assistance where it's wanted. We've also talked about the interagency communication for enhanced threat response. So again, right now, as you know, we've had some hoaxes throughout the state, and you've seen emails come through primarily from me, just kind of keeping people updated. I'm getting that information really because of relationships I've established with outside agencies, including DPS, our student services directors, our superintendents. But as you all know, something based on relationships just doesn't last. We need something systemic that is going to ensure that we're getting that information, that you all as board members are having access immediately to that information as well. So we're just looking at and exploring, is there a system? Is there a better way rather than relational means? I'm certainly happy to, share information as I get it with all of you. Please don't, misinterpret that. However, if I'm sick or there's something that's going on, I want to make sure you get that information still. We still are working closely with our rural areas. They have very unique needs, even some of the most recent needs with the student, the school safety specialist, trying to figure out, with their limited capacity, limited personnel, how do they make that work most effectively? So just focusing some effort there. And again, grant support, which I'll walk you through some of the grants that we have out currently, just trying to provide support. There has been, grants can be confusing for everyone involved. And so just continuing to focus on providing some strong support there. Threat assessment, as I mentioned previously, we have the CSTAG as well as standard response protocols, and just making sure that our LEAs feel supported and have the technical assistance that they need. And then again, reunification, which really I can tie back to those emergency response plans. That's just been a key area that we've identified as may not be as strong. It seems like our schools are getting stronger in threat assessment, but then what? So we've had this happen. Now, how do we make sure that students feel safe, parents feel safe, that parents understand, where do I pick up my student, and also can access any resources that could deal with any of that stress that could have come from, whether it be a real threat or a hoax. We still absorb that into our nervous system. And so how do we provide resources for folks on that? Okay, so let's dive into the grants. So as you know, we have our school safety specialist grant, and these are just high-level overviews for you. So please, if you have additional questions, I've also got Rhett Larson, who, like I said, can provide some additional details. But I've included here our infographic on a school safety specialist. And just as a reminder, this is a person who has enhanced safety-related training. So they would participate in threat assessment training, such as CSTAG. They would be knowledgeable of standard response protocol. They would know the building. They would understand which doors lock, which doors don't lock. They would be able to inform the principal on needs that they see, safety needs. They would be part of the multidisciplinary team when there does appear to be a threat to the school, so that they can offer their input and so forth. So that is what this grant is for. Every school received a $3,000 stipend, and that stipend goes to the individual who is taking on this opportunity. Oh, and I'm sorry, someone is calling me. I will take that.
It's funny. I thought my work computer was making a call and I was frantically looking to shut it off because it's the same noise.
I am so sorry about that. Thank you for your patience with that. So with that, some of the questions that have come through, okay, so with our school safety grants, what have been some of those top safety needs? So as you know, we have a safety grant that is out, and this provided schools the opportunity to run through a safety assessment of their school and to figure out what is it that we need to keep kids safe. So we've got some money here. What is it that we need to focus on? And I've worked with my staff to come up with the top 5 safety needs. Of course, there are always outliers, but just wanted to share with you an overview of what we've discovered from the school safety grant and what some of those top safety needs include. So the first category, if you will, includes campus needs. So we've identified that schools are still seeking things such as keypads or like those fob cards to get into the doorways and things to keep the entry level safe, cameras, single points of entry, safety film on windows, and then things such as locks, signage, fencing, things to keep their campus area safe. So when I say campus, I mean the physical space that their school is housed on. The next includes communication. So here we're talking about intercoms, two-way radios, emergency apps, any ways to communicate. My school may be in danger. I need help to outside officials as well as to internal officials. So you may have that teacher down the hall that, are out in the portable that still very much needs that same communication. The next need that came up dealt with first aid, so stop the bleed kits, AED, things such of that nature that can be accessible to the schools so that they don't have to, as they're potentially in the waiting process, they can access those things. Number 4 includes professional learning, so threat assessment, that CSTAG, any active shooter training. Folks are wanting to understand better how are we proactive? What type of training do we need? How do we identify threats so that we can start to work on those so that these threats don't become a tragedy? And then number 5 is personnel. So security personnel, any contracts with local law enforcement. Those of you, well, all of us here who have been following this legislative session know that Representative Wilcox is working on even more opportunity for personnel in the building. And so that's something that our LEAs have also been voicing to us as well. So let's talk a little bit about the timeline for the school safety and support grant, just to give you again an update. So you can see here that our timeline started in June 28th, where the application process was initiated. In June of 2023, we offered webinars and support resources provided to LEAs. One thing that we've been doing that I think has been successful, we're still kind of getting some data on this, but we have an opportunity for LEAs to join our webinars. Of course, we record, recognizing that not everybody's on the same timeline. And then we also provide what we call office hours, where our staff is just available and folks can just call in and they know that we're available. They know that we'll answer. They know we're not conducting a webinar and have to decline their phone call. They can call in and talk to us and ask us questions that are unique and specific. So I'll let you kind of look through this. You can see here that this some of the highlights of this grant include that 210 schools received 100% of the requested amount, and 494 schools received at least 50% of their total requested amount. So, of course, in a perfect world, we'd love to just give schools what they need financially. But as you know, we have, grant stipulations. And so for us, this was really exciting that we were able to fund 100% and then 50% of several other schools. So as you can see, that speaks to some of the safety needs that may still be ongoing in the previous slide, but wanted to share that we are moving forward with this, and the schools are getting some of the things that they need to keep our kiddos safe. Let's move into the firearm detection software grant. Again, here I've just provided a timeline for you so that you have an understanding of where we've started and where we are. So as you can see, in December 2023, the board approved the contract. We had our applications released in January, had a very busy month in January and then February, looking at those applications, reviewing those applications, meeting with the vendor, trying to better understand the technology that's involved so that we can walk our schools through that support as well, and also walk our vendor through how LEAs need to be supported and being an advocate for them as well. So you can see here that in February, the award notice is sent out, and then in July 31st of 2025, we'll receive a follow-up summary, and that just helps us to inform you as board members of, what is this looking like in our schools? How has this changed the landscape of our schools, and what do we need to know to better be informed to keep our schools safe? And that takes us to our third learning point for today, which is data. I want to share with you two primary sources of data that we use at the School Safety Center and really throughout Safe and Healthy Schools to inform our technical assistance and things moving forward. One includes the 2023 School Disciplinary and Law Enforcement Action Report. As you can see here, this report refills the requirements for Utah Code 53E3, 516, and then R277912. As well as bullying and hazing requirements from Utah Code 53G9, 606, and R277613. So we look at this report, and it helps us to understand the incidences that are being reported throughout the state. It helps us to understand whether or not the data is kind of matching some of the requests we're getting for technical assistance. And I'll walk us through this report in just a minute to give you an idea of what those incidents are. And of course, you have access to the full report online. And then the next piece of data includes the school climate survey data, which is in accordance with Code 53G 8802. And this provides us with perceptional survey from the schools that helps us to understand whether students, staff, law enforcement, community members, and administrators have the perception of safety at their school. This also helps them to inform their safe school policies, which is required through code and rule as well. So LEAs use this information for that. And I'll walk us through these two pieces of data in a high-level overview, just for better understanding. So the first piece of data I referenced includes the School Discipline and Law Enforcement Action Report. As you can see here, this is figure 2, and this is our most current data, which is extracted annually. You can see we have 21 incidents that we're reporting on. And if your eye and mine goes to the first thing mine did when I saw this report is, why in the world is other our top rated incident? And so please know that we are aware of that. And we've had several conversations with LEAs, even pulling together some focus groups and working with superintendents and student service directors. And some of the feedback we're getting from the field is they really need better definitions for some of these to understand what does this fall under, so that the default category does not continue to be other. Some of the incidents that we track maybe aren't practically applicable in the schools. Sometimes there are 2 or 3 things happening at one time, and rather than pick the top offense, they're selecting other. And so as you can see here, we have some work to do to clean up this data, and we're actively working on that with LEAs. Also, I've been doing a lot of research in terms of what other states are using for definitions, what some of those federal definitions and codes are, and also working forward to what my next step will be, which is getting some type of a work group together so that we can look at these definitions and figure out how to better support our LEAs moving forward. And then again, just wanted to touch on the school climate survey one more time. Again, this provides data to support LEAs in adopting their plan for harassment and discrimination-free learning. They also are required to have a parental outreach plan, which is informed by the school climate survey. So the school climate survey is a good opportunity for them to look back and see what parents have said about the climate of their school. Also, as a reminder, schools are required to send a notice to each student, parent, and LEA staff member stating their commitment to maintaining a school climate that is free of harassment and discrimination each year, no later than September 1st. And so that data is used for those purposes. So want to just give you a screenshot. As you may be aware, you can access all of the school climate data off of Utah Data Gateway, and you can see everything that I'm able to see, but wanted to just kind of give you a snapshot. So if a school were to look at their school climate survey and they wanted to know, hey, what are the top 5 bullying locations for 2023 by grade? They could look at this question here. Does bullying take place in any of the following areas of my school? And this is actual data from the Data Gateway. So you can see here in through 5th grades, the playground seems to be an area of potential concern, as well as school property, cafeteria, hallways. Those are some areas that schools may want to just dive deeper into. So we know that perceptional data is one piece of data in a chapter of data. So hopefully it's not the only data being looked at, but we found that it's a very beneficial way to start the conversation around, where do we go from here, and what can we start looking into, and what do we need to dive deeper into? Same goes for 6th through 12th grades. You can see that hallways seem to be an area, as well as school property, where bullying is taking place. So again, helps LEAs start that conversation around what is the perception of my school climate and area, and what do I want to do about it to make it safe? So I've just shared with you 2 pieces of data. Would like to go over some data gaps now, and some areas that I've been asked by board members or different committees, LEAs, hey, can you tell me more about this? And I refer to data, I refer to rule, I refer to policy. And so when I'm looking at data, here are some gaps just for your consideration and for your awareness and understanding, as we're thinking through what data may be beneficial, as we're thinking through school safety and how we want to support our LEAs. The first includes those standardized incident definitions. So I went through, and you've now seen that other is the top reported category. And so that is a gap, because we can't do much with other as our primary data point. What we're doing at USBE is staff to support you as board members. I oversee, along with Rhett Larson, the 3A strategic team, and all of our work is poured into this piece of the data. So looking at the definitions, we've got our whole team looking at state code and federal code, and researching different types of technical assistance that are currently available, and looking for gaps there so that we can help LEAs and support in that area. The next includes this, the next data gap is the standard response protocol. Again, this was introduced by House Bill 140 in 2023. This includes the protocol of hold, secure, lockdown, evacuate, and shelter. We do not track this data. And if I had, $1 for every time somebody's asked me this in the past couple of meetings I've been, hey, how many times have schools been placed on lockdown? How many times have schools been placed in evacuation? And we do not track that data. So I leave this at the wisdom of you as board members to decide if that is something that needs to be tracked. But I just wanted to bring it to your awareness that we do not track that data. And so when I'm asked, and if you start to get asked, especially where this is, moving forward as being codified, we do not have access to that data. So just wanted to share that with you. And then another thing I get asked quite a bit is information on the Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines, as referred to as CSTAG. So within CSTAG, it allows the schools to identify transient threats and substantive threats. So those transient threats are threats that students shouldn't be saying or doing, but, I hate my teacher. I wish she would get a flat tire, or I wish, should not be saying those things, and probably a cry for help in other ways, and should still be dealt with and talked to, but probably not something that we would need to pull in all resources because the student is going to cause a threat to the entire school. But then we have those substantive threats that, could be something, posting online or saying very explicitly something that this individual plans to carry out. And that's where we bring together that multidisciplinary team, and we figure out, how do we first stop the threat? How do we identify what resources are needed? And then again, how do we get that student help and resources? Because clearly there's something there that is an area of concern. We do not track that data. as well. And so again, if this is something that board members would like access to, or you're hearing from your constituents or LEAs that they want to know, what is happening in the schools, just be advised that we do not track this data. So there isn't any way of knowing how many threats are happening at schools or the types of threats that are happening. So those from just my perception as your Safe and Healthy Schools coordinator are some data gaps for your consideration. And so with that, I'd like to conclude and just provide some potential next steps for consideration. So again, we at the School Safety Center, along with my staff on Safe and Healthy Schools, are continuing to provide technical assistance for LEAs with that CSTAG, the threat assessment, the standard response protocol. Again, really interested in those emergency response plans and just making sure, with all respect to local control and wanting them to be able to utilize the resources they have, but also wanting to make sure that we are providing them with technical assistance and resources, and then those reunification plans. As I mentioned previously, we want to continue to explore systems to support interagency communication for that enhanced threat response. We found that one of the number one ways to support in the possibility of a threat is that we're communicating and that we are able to get that communication out to those that need it. And then a review of data sources. I shared with you the 2 data sources that we use and then some potential gaps, and then continuing to review and study local and national best practices for school safety so that, we're not reinventing the wheel, we're learning from others so that we don't have to experience any of the tragedies for us to take action. And at this time, I'd like to open it up for some questions. And it looks like Board Member Rill, did you have a question? I'm sorry. I'm used to presenting. I'm sorry, Board Member Booth, that is your territory to take.
That's great. Thank you very much. Board Member Rill, go ahead.
Thank you, Chantel. This is awesome. And I just want to say how much I appreciate all of you and your team's hard work. Part of my role at Salt Lake Community College is working in public safety. So I've been through live active shooter trainings. I've been through lots of campus safety programs, and I help manage the emergency communication system. It's frightening. Obviously, I have my mom and my sister and myself, we're in classrooms every day. And so it's a really, really hard, scary thing to talk about and even think about. And it just, every single day I worry about it, right? So for you to be in this work and to do this every day, I just want to say how much I appreciate it. And I think what's interesting is that we really we're in a place right now since Columbine where we really don't have any good answers to what is best. And so we kind of try to do everything we can to keep students safe and hope that we're doing the right things. And is it metal detectors? Is it mental health? Is it we just really don't know. And so all we can do is make sure that we, in a case of an emergency, we're communicating, we have an action plan, we have everyone trained to know what to do. And that's the best thing we can do. And so I just want to say how much I appreciate your work in making sure that all of our schools have those tools. Even though we don't have the answers on how to stop these things from happening, we at least have the tools to be able to do the best we can in those scenarios. So thank you. And every day I worry and hope that, nothing happens in Utah schools, but I know that the work that you do is so important that if something does happen, we're going to be able to handle it in the best way possible. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one more follow-up question I forgot to ask. So in regards to the communication systems that we use, I'm very familiar with Everbridge. That's the system that we use often in USHE. But do we let districts decide on their emergency messaging software, or do we have a state contract for all schools to use?
Yeah, may I answer that, Board Member Booth?
Of course, please.
Yeah, so local agencies have the opportunity to choose. Actually, Dr. Norman and I, though, have been chatting with folks and getting some information. And so I'm starting to learn more what most of our LEAs are using across the board. And that came through a request through Representative Wilcox wanted to know for his current bill. And so
Okay.
I can share a list of some of the commonly used ones. Of course, we don't know
Yeah.
which one's using, but happy to share that if that's helpful.
I will say from a USHE perspective, we just opened a campus that's Salt Lake Community College and University of Utah students. So they can go to this Harriman campus, they can get their associate's degree, stay in the same building, get their bachelor's or master's degree from the University of Utah. It's really cool. But we ran into some hiccups when it came to emergency management, because if there's an emergency at that campus, we need to be able to communicate with both the University of Utah students and the Salt Lake Community College students. And it kind of was an eye-opener to me how it would be a benefit to have the same software or same system statewide, especially if there's something that, if it's an elementary school, like there's near my house, there's an elementary school and a junior high, and they butt up to each other, right? So it would be great to have at least, obviously that would be the same district, but in any case, I think that there is a benefit at looking into that. It might not be necessary, but it could be really helpful if the entire state was on the same contract and on the same system to help with training. It's a lot less work for LEAs, but that's just kind of my opinion on that.
Thank you. That's very useful and in alignment with conversations that I've had with LEAs as well.
So I do have a question, a few.
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you for coming. And I'm just curious if the School Safety Commission, is that what it's called?
School Safety Center.
Okay, the School Safety Center, in any of their sessions or discussions, have they brought up the book called Why Meadow Died by Max Eden or Andy Pollock? And I see Rhett Larson nodding his head, and maybe you can answer this. Can you tell me how MTSS, PBIS, restorative justice practices are being addressed in light of what's known about the Parkland shooting based on the information that was discovered and written in that book?
Chair Booth, are you okay if I respond?
That would be wonderful, Rhett. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Rhett Larson, School Safety Specialist. And the book Why Meadow Died is something that we have heard. I personally have read it. I know Representative Wilcox and others have read it. He, in just a meeting a couple weeks ago, was giving out several copies to folks in that meeting. Additionally, as Chantel, my coordinator, as she talked about when we went to the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School this last October, where the Parkland shooting took place, I on that third floor, where most of the deaths took place. So the building is today as it was that day on February 14th, 2018, and nothing has been cleaned out or changed, and that includes the DNA. So we've seen the DNA where all 17 were murdered and 17 were wounded. And that included Meadow Pollock, who was an inspiring attorney. She was 18 years old. She was murdered as she was trying to shield another student in the hallway on the third floor. And it was really inspiring. Board Member Klein, at the end of this tour, which was devastating, and I don't think any of us will forget that. And I will tell you, I'm a changed person since that tour. And I think everyone who was on that tour agrees. And that was state representatives and even members of Congress that went on that tour. And at the end of that tour, what was inspiring to me is to walk into the gym and to see multiple information booths, which was all parents who had children that had passed away and who now have nonprofit organizations who are promoting best practices for school safety. And 2 of them last night reported to the Law Enforcement Committee as Representative Wilcox presented House Bill 84. 2 parents reported. And as we continue to learn with and from other states, we continue to look to implement best practices of what we're learning from them, such as threat assessment, having common language, standardized response protocols. Now, your question, I have been through that book, and I understand and know some concerns in there that stated about multiple programs that was mentioned. Board Member Klein, I don't represent those programs. And so I wouldn't be best to answer that, but I will say we continue to learn with and from other states and implement what we learn. And I think it's mindful as we continue to venture down this to thank the legislature for their ongoing focus on school safety, and you as a board. I'm thankful for you and your focus on school safety. And though I can't fully answer your question, Board Member Klein, again, I don't represent those programs, but we do continue to look at what is best practices as we learn from these other states. And I am very proud of the progress that we have made that aligns to those best practices as we continue to learn.
Thank you. May I follow up?
Please do.
So I've read the book. It is heart-wrenching. Every page is jaw-dropping. And if you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. But one of the most eye-opening things that is exposed in that is, and they say in the book that this shooting was the most preventable school shooting there has been, because it was based on policy failures around programs like MTSS, PBIS, restorative justice. And that is, and those programs are something we are squarely over here at the USBE. And I would ask that we take a study session to go over those aspects of that are written in the book, those chapters. I think chapters 9 and 10, if I remember, it's been a while, specifically delve into those policy failures and look at what we are doing that is similar that we need to fix in order to, because that is the preventative aspect. Those are well-meaning programs, at least they sound well-meaning, but they often have the opposite effect than than how they're pitched as far as human psychology. It doesn't work the way it sounds like it would when it's presented. So I would ask that our leadership and staff take that into consideration and bring it back and give us an opportunity to delve deep on those chapters of the book and look at our policies around that. Another concern I have is, and I'll just touch on these briefly, is the push to take cell phones away from students when cell phones have played a major part in protecting students or letting students communicate to their parents things that are happening in the moment when these kind of situations happen in a school. And I would hate to take phones away from kids when they need them in those instances to be able to communicate with the parent in real time what is going on. Here's an example, and maybe you can speak to this, Rhett, about a situation that happened in the Granite School District, I think about a year ago. And this involves addressing state safety plans in how districts communicate school threats with the parent. I had a parent contact me because they were receiving mixed messages about a school shooting threat. And the school sent an email to the parents saying that there was a threat specific to the school, but then the parents in that school also received an email from the districts that said the threats circulating were just hoaxes and to not worry. But the students in the school were sharing screenshots of very specific threats made to students and teachers, which directly contradicted the district's email to the parents that downplayed those threats. And so the parents the concern is that parents don't know if they can trust the information they're receiving from the districts when they see hard evidence that contradicts what the district is telling them. And where it's almost as if the district is trying to obscure crucial information that would have helped parents to make an informed decision as to whether they felt that their kids would be safe at school on the days that those threats were made for. Can you speak to that?
Chair, can I?
Yes,
respond?
please.
So thank you, Board Member Klein. I am going to be mindful of the proposed legislation and leave that up to, you know, the full board regarding cell phones. I do want to emphasize the importance, though, of the technology tools that we do currently have, such as Safe UT, which has been critical in keeping students safe, and the ongoing learning from these other states and what's going on there. I appreciate you and your ongoing dedication and concern for student safety, because it takes every single one of us to keep students safe. And so again, I just want to emphasize the importance of Safe UT, a great tool. See something, you say something, and immediately, just so you all know, it is a neat experience to go to other states who are trying to get a reporting app that we already have, and Utah is known as a leader in that space. And then I know I keep mentioning over and over and over, learning with and from other states. One of those items, like locks on doors, of not locking the door from the outside. It was sad for me to be on that third floor and see where a teacher was died or a teacher was murdered, trying to pull the door shut to keep his students safe. And that door was one that was locked from the outside, a takeaway clear back from Columbine. And I was happy to see when Chantel showed you in that report, I was happy to see as we were going through the grants, some of these basic safety requirements that are needed in our school that we have learned that are best practices for school safety, and we need to implement them in our state. And so I just want to continue to emphasize the importance of our current tools that we have, but we'll be mindful of the proposed legislation and leave that up to the board.
Chair Booth, Mike?
Yes.
Is there anybody at the school safety center that is trying to look at this problem through the lens of the policies that create some of those conditions within the school?
Is that a question for me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. So when you say issues, can you?
So the policy issues around PBIS, MTSS, restorative justice, is there anybody within the school safety center that is trying to address these safety issues from that perspective, those failed policies or how those policies failed in the Parkland school shooting? Is anybody taking that on to address that angle of it? And if so, how?
Thank
and if
you.
not, what can be done so that can be taken up?
Thank you. No, that is not something that we are studying, but I will highlight that as we went on that tour, a lot of the shortfalls and missteps in keeping Parkland safe, the Marjorie Stoneman High School safe, was identified. And a lot of that was, again, I just mentioned the locks on interior doors. It was law enforcement response. It was even going to the fire alarm when the fire alarm was pulled and students on the third floor not knowing that it was not a drill, that it was a lockdown. And so there was a lot of lessons that were learned as we went on that tour that dealt with the physical aspect of school safety. And that is something that that was in efforts with the legislation that was passed last year, basic safety and security, and helped us inform LEAs, like these are best practices that are being learned from other states. But to answer your question regarding the programs, no, but on that tour, a lot of the takeaways was on the physical safety and the shortfalls.
Okay, so is somebody can somebody take that up at the school safety center and look at the policy side of it, that the policies that led to those conditions? It's spelled out in the book. So if you've read the book, you know what I'm referring to.
Thank you. I'm not sure where that, I believe that direction would come from the full board. I'll leave that up to leadership.
Is there anybody at the school safety center that would know the answers to these questions that I'm asking about the policy?
Patty Norman, please.
Yeah, I was just going to call on Chantel and she can speak to some of the specifics that are within Representative Wilcox's bill. And he has read that book. He said he's read it several times. And that's one of the reasons why he has his bill, HB 84. And Chantel maybe can address some of those exact policy questions that have been rolled out in his bill.
Chantel.
Thank you so much. So yes, thank you for those questions. I just wanted to add a little more context to what Rhett had mentioned in terms of the lessons learned moving forward. So where our efforts are currently directed at the school safety centers, looking at the legislation that currently exists with Representative Wilcox's bill last year, and then currently the legislation that's going through right now. And what we're looking at are some of the things that he's taken from, we know that he's read that book, as well as he accompanied us to the Parkland tour and had several conversations with several folks that were part of the writing of that book, as well as experienced the actual tragedy. And some of the things that we're focusing our efforts and time on include the early warning system, the guardians and other personnel that will be placed in the school to support school safety. How can we provide technical assistance on those panic buttons that are associated with Alyssa's law that is embedded within Wilcox's legislation. And then also, as many of you are aware, we shall be aware, Chief of State Matt Pennington is now going to have a lot of oversight in school safety. And I had the opportunity to host him for a meeting at USBE offices just this past week, and had a really, Dr. Voorhees was there as well, and Rhett as well. And we were able to talk with him and get a vision for how we at USBE can be those collaborative partners with DPS, and lessons learned as well from this legislation moving forward. So just to kind of go back to your question, that's where our current focus is, in looking at all of the lessons learned from Parkland, which is where the book that you're referencing stems from, as well as other tragedies. We've also looked at Uvalde and some of those other tragedies, and are bringing in kind of a wide span of lessons learned with our threat assessment, warning systems, policy procedures, and also just the practical application of those items.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so nothing about, sorry, I just wanted to follow up on your comment. So nothing about PBIS, MTSS, restorative justice that are explained in the book. That's not anything that's being discussed at the school safety center.
May I respond?
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you for that question. So MTSS, PBIS, so as you know, within USBE, different programs are housed within different spaces, and MTSS and PBIS are just two support systems that are not housed within Safe and Healthy Schools nor at the School Safety Center. But what I will say is that we do collaborate with our specialists across the board. In fact, Tanya Albornoz is here on this meeting with prevention. Restorative services is one that falls under her purview, and we do bring in folks on kind of a consultative basis as we see the need to just inform of things that we are currently doing at the State Board of Education, again, under the board's direction and purview as assigned to us. So right now, again, I mentioned the things that we're focused on, but those two programs that you're mentioning specifically just don't fall specifically under Safe and Healthy Schools.
All
Thank
right,
you.
so I just reading my request that we as a board bring this to the forefront and have that discussion and what can be done about those. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
just want to, I too have read the book. Not that, I don't know if that's a confession that you have to make when you get on today, but and to me, there was a couple of significant things. One of those is the failed actions of the adults. As much as we say policies, sometimes policies do or don't work, right? And we should always be evaluating those. And I think Natalie's right. If there's policies we have in place that create risk factors for students, those are always worth looking at, right? But I think we also have to be careful that we're not, because someone has a policy in place and they failed at application, it doesn't mean that the policy or the program itself is failed. And so I think it's an important discussion we have so we can see where those weaknesses are or vulnerabilities, and address them where they are, but where they actually benefit students and communities, we need to be careful we're not throwing everything out with something that could be beneficial. The other thing, I know I've talked with Representative Wilcox a number of times, and I do appreciate being able to sit on the safety collaborative. I just am, one of the things that I think is key, and I think we're working on that, is that communication between the different entities so that there's a quick response and a clear understanding. And I think Natalie, Board Member Klein addressed this, is making sure we have clear communication with parents, right? So we don't have parents and students in a panic over something with misinformation. And that's a little tricky in the day we live, because misinformation can travel quickly. But I just wanted to say I appreciate the thoroughness and the thoughtfulness of those individuals that are working on creating safer environments, and looking at the key things that actually create a safe facility, right? And safe thinking for adults. And then students don't have to worry as much about the safety, because the adults are doing the adult thing and providing safety for them. So those are just my comments. So thank you for all you are doing.
Thank you.
Can I
This
ask
last, I guess it's 2 weeks ago, when a number of us met with Representative Wilcox and also with our new, what is he called? Something officer, Pennington. What is his official title, Chantel?
Yes, he is the chief, state security chief.
State security chief. And then we had representatives from the police, from fire, from all of the safety, the heads of safety in the state of Utah in those same meetings. And I was impressed with the level of collaboration. And the buy-in from each of the entities. It wasn't like, okay, great, somebody's got this covered. This person over here's got that covered, and that somebody else has got that covered. Everyone was stepping up to the plate and saying, okay, how will we, each of us, make sure that we are covering everything that needs to be covered for our children's safety? And the level of commitment on each of their parts was admirable. And I think that Board Member Klein's suggestion that, we need to get this in front of the full board, maybe could happen if members of the board that are on this committee, having had the advantage of this wonderful report from Chantel and from Rhett, might want to provide a memo or an email to board leadership as at least 3 people recommending that this be an agenda item and that we bring it to the full board for consideration, and maybe even specifically with some policy recommendations or suggestions for consideration. But certainly I feel that I know so much more now, having had what we had today in the meeting from Chantel and Rhett, and from the experience of being on Capitol Hill with Representative Wilcox. And in no way is it making me feel, okay, we can just sit back and relax, everything's being taken care of. It opened my eyes to the concept that, wow, is there a lot going on? And it's a darn good thing, because we've got a lot of kids out there who are very vulnerable, and there's nobody else that has any greater responsibility than those of us that having this conversation right now. So I appreciate the rigor with which Board Member Klein has addressed this matter, and would recommend that we think about and not just think, but probably do something in terms of taking the next step to get this on an agenda with the full board. Board Member Klein.
Yes, so thank you. I just had a couple other comments as far as what happened in the Granite School District when they had these threats. It wasn't misinformation, and I don't think you were saying that what I had shared was necessarily misinformation, but the kids had actual screenshots with actual names, the screenshots of the threats that had actual names of teachers and students. One teacher ended up quitting because of it, for fear, because her name was on the list. So, so anyway, but my other question, and maybe Chantel or Rhett could address this, is in the Parkland situation, Marjorie Stone Douglas High School, or the district, had a grant or a contract, a joint kind of agreement contract between the police department and the schools, that they received that money on the condition that the police would not make any arrests on school property. And so that was part of what played into why the police officers stayed outside the school listening to the gunfire for almost an hour before they actually went in, because they had this agreement that created a conflict, so that they made it so they were afraid to act, and they were told to stand down because then the money would be at risk. So do we have any kind of agreements like that in place that would put money or grant money over, place that as a priority over the lives of children and getting in and rescuing and saving them? Do we have anything like that? And is BISCA, the new bipartisan Safer Community Act that we signed on to this last year, does that have anything in it that would create a situation like that? Have we had to make any kind of agreements where law enforcement could not go in and act promptly to rescue students?
I'm
Sorry.
happy to respond to that, Board Member Booth, if you're okay.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you for that question. So all of the, we have something that's called a model MOU, which provides districts with an opportunity to look at language that they can put into their own MOU. But all of the agreements between law enforcement and local education agencies are an agreement between those two parties. So USBE does not intercede in that by any means. Now, in conversations with the new legislation that's coming forward, I know that the state security chief and the Department of Public Services will very much be interested in revising that MOU. I know that Representative Wilcox has looked at the MOU policies across the state, and so I know that he has a vested interest in moving forward. But we at the Utah State Board of Education, we only offer a model policy, and it really is just to help support schools with language that they can choose to use if they'd like. But just in direct response to your question, Board Member Klein, we don't reference any monetary values or recommend one way or the other. We simply provide language that may be helpful on the collaboration and communication between both parties to keep students safe.
So it would be nice if there was something in there that said that no agreement, whether money is attached or not, could be made, so that law enforcement was not capable of acting in a moment of crisis to go in and save kids. And
Chair Booth.
Yeah, the PBIS and MTSS programs are set up to try to prevent or try to avoid having to call police officers in many cases. So it's the schools trying to manage these problems on their own, when sometimes the appropriate response would be to call law enforcement.
Chair Booth.
Yes, please.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that the Standards and Assessment Committee recommends that the full board support HB 84 school safety amendments in our Thursday legislative meeting.
I think that's a great idea. So we have a motion to recommend to the full board that we support House Bill 84 in our upcoming Thursday legislative meeting. And I think that's certainly the least we can do. And I'm very hopeful and encouraged by the level of conversation, the level of cooperation that is already emerging and has been in place. And I was just woefully unaware of the good that is happening between the agencies. And as Board Member Klein has just been speaking about the coordination with law enforcement, I think it was very clear as we heard the leaders of law enforcement in the state speak that they are fully committed and they are eager to be a part of the team that will ensure that will work together to ensure the safety of our children in our schools. So I'm very excited about that, and I appreciate that motion that the full board support HB 84 school safety amendment legislative board meeting on February 8th. Is
So
there
Board
any
Member-
comment or question
Yeah.
supporting?
Board Member Rill, I mean, technically it's on our agenda this afternoon. You can put February 8th, but I think you could, I mean, people could take a
Well-
position this afternoon, so.
Yeah, well, based on our meeting,
Yeah.
I think let's at least show this here and then we have it down on the record so that it is prioritized if for some reason this afternoon we don't get to it.
Yeah, I think we could
that's all right.
just, yeah,
Or we
okay,
could
there
put
you go.
At the next
legislative.
opportunity, yeah, or next legislative or next legislative discussion instead of meeting.
Good. That sounds
Yeah,
great.
There you go. How's that?
Any other comments or questions or
Um,
yes, Natalie?
I think there was a staff member that was trying to finish answering my question about PBIS when Sarah jumped in. And so I just wanted to get back to that.
Right.
And then
Can we, let's
Yeah.
just vote
Here.
right there for this and then we'll get back to Chantel, I think, who was answering that. All those in favor of recommending this to the board, as I've just read it, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. That is all three of us. So that is,
I didn't respond.
oh, I thought I heard three voices.
No. So
Oh, I guess we've got four now. We've got four now.
I'm,
And Natalie, yes.
I am.
Yeah, Jenny's back. So
Okay. great,
I'm
thank
not voting for this at this time because I need to look more closely at the bill language based on the conversation that we've just had.
Thank you.
So
All
is
right.
not just to confirm. So we have 3 yeses, and then are you abstaining, Natalie, or are you a decline?
I will just abstain for now.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. We're back to Chantel. I'm sorry that you were cut off.
No, I don't, thank you for that. I don't believe I was cut off. I'm sorry, Board Member Klein, could you please repeat the question so I can ensure that I do answer appropriately?
Well, I'm trying to remember because I was interrupted and now we've kind of lost. I was hoping that you could remember where we were before we were interrupted. So in the future, if we can just allow for the conversation to finish before jumping in with a motion, I would appreciate that. I do have a question as far as the model policy that you mentioned, Chantel. Is that something you can drop in the chat for us or email to the committee, the model policy you were referring to?
Yes, I'm
And-
happy to send that via email.
Great. And I would also like a copy of, you showed the vision and mission of the School Safety Center. I would also like a copy of the strategic plan, if you wouldn't mind sending that too. Thank you.
Chair
Patty,
Booth.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I
Yeah,
would just like to make a motion if we're done with all of our agenda items, a motion to adjourn.
that's great. I think that's in order. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Great. I heard 4 voices, so I think we're good. We're adjourned.
Thank you to everyone for all of your presentations. They were awesome.
Thanks
It
for
was
the
great.
Hard work.
information. I may be in touch with Rhett or Chantel for more information. Thank you.
Thank you. And so see you later on at 12:30. Bye-bye.